Um, Hello and welcome. You've arrived at Power Platform This and That, and I am joined here today by Ulrikke Akerbæk, who is someone who's been in the community for quite some time. I admire her greatly. She runs the Power Platform Boost podcast, which I have a lot of fun listening to. I get a lot of gardening done, but it's only every 2 weeks. So I only get a certain amount of gardening done because of Ulrika's podcast. Welcome, Ulrika.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you so much for having me on the show and for saying all those sweet and nice things about the Boost podcast. And I'm sorry that we can't put up more episodes for you. I'm really, yeah, let's, I'm going to talk to Nick because I need, summer's coming up and there's a lot of gardening that needs to be done. I'm a gardener myself, so I know what it's like. So maybe we
Yeah.
need to up our game so that you get all the things done. We'll talk
And
about
you might not have to do it every 2 weeks. Maybe you just extend a little bit. We have to sort of like think about how full the green bin will be as a result of the amount of gardening that I've been
it.
doing. I'm sure
But
that's
thank you
what
for
everyone.
returning. So I just wanted to say thank you for returning the favor with your podcast because our podcast started because the Up podcast, it kind of went away. And so I had nothing to listen to while running. Now you need something more to listen to while gardening, and so do I. So now you're returning the favor. So now I can listen to this podcast while doing my gardening. How's that?
Lovely.
So thank you. Thank you, Rory.
Yeah, and this idea of podcasting, it's fun to listen to, I think. And I hope that the audience will enjoy what they get to hear. Two people in the Power Platform community having a nice chat with each other that's a little bit structured and really is very much accessible to people that are new to Power Platform. And
Mm.
there are plenty of those people. Some of them won't have even started using the Power Platform as we record this podcast, but they'll be coming into it, and I would like it if there was a place they can come to where they could learn a little bit and have a podcast that they could enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. And so, what would you say is the difference between your podcast? Because there are a few already out there with Power Platform and who kind of interviews people. So, what would you say was your main kind of drive to, yeah, create yet another podcast, so to speak?
Yeah, so from my point of view, I I was listening to some podcasts and I went away from them and I thought to myself, I really don't know what I learned during that podcast.
Technically, you mean, right? So, content-wise.
Yeah. And so in some cases I heard a podcast and they were saying, oh yeah, soft skills are so important, something soft skills are so important. And I thought, well, look, unless you're going to talk in a little bit of detail about those soft skills and not just tell us how important they are, then
Oh.
what's what's the point? And then, in terms of me and what I do and my kind of journey through the Power Platform, I've delivered a lot of training. I'm an accountant by trade, so I can never get away from the fact that I used to be an accountant in the
Mm.
sense of I'm not really a developer. I just have kind of fallen into it and into a really great community as well. And I wanted there to be something for people that were new to Power Platform to be able to come to, listen to two people that enjoyed each other's company, but also learn a little bit along the way. And if you think about how much information there is out there now, if you typed in Power Platform things that are really important,
Mm.
what would it come up with? And so, therefore, if I have a guest on and I say to him, okay, these are the things, these are the categories of questions you've got, out of all that massive amount of knowledge you've got, we know our audience. Here are the questions. What are you going to come up with? And it's quite exciting to me to think that 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 you get to talk about this. So, from the point of view of the listeners, I don't know what you've come up with my kind of set questions, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I absolutely love your format. I think it's so old that it's forgotten, and it's perfect for this. You're so creative, really, really like it. So I can't wait to dive in. And the second you showed me, I was like, yes, this is perfect. And it kind of shows the people your organized, structured background. This is in your nature. I love that duality between the structure and the organized, formatted, kind of follow a certain structure, and then the creative outlet that you get with that. So that's really much,
Yeah.
it's a lot of the same as how I work. I need routine and structure in my world and my daily life to be creative, because that frees up a lot of capacity to kind of be creative and go out there. So I really like the duality of the two. And I think we're going to see with this format that you're going to get exactly that. So really
So
good.
you heard my one of the reasons for the delay in us getting together was I needed to get my pilot out so that you could listen to it, so that you could kind of get, what does Rory mean by this podcast. So the pilot was intended to kind of give any new guests, for me to give them a chance to say, hey, this is kind of the format that we've got.
Yeah. Yeah. It was lovely. So is this going to be the first episode that you publish then?
So it's not the first episode. So the first episode is the pilot episode, but
Right.
you are the first guest.
I'm so honoured. I'm so honoured that you wanted me to be the first guest, Rory. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. It's
I
really
mean,
a
so
privilege.
in the pilot episode, I must say, in the pilot episode, Sarah Guest was the interviewer, and she asked me the same questions that I'm going to be asking you.
Yeah, I really like that. And it's such a good thing to do for the guest as well, because then they understand where you're coming from and what you want out of it, and and why you're doing it as well. And I really like to see that. So it makes it so much easier to be a guest, but also to kind of get a little insight into why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely a good thing.
Super. Well, so let's kick off with just a little bit, give us a bit of your personal background then. So like, it's almost, if you think about it, I mean, obviously say it however you need to say it, but this is this hopefully will be helpful to people coming into Power Platforms and then think, oh, that's how Ulrika got into the platform. That's interesting.
Yeah, I like that approach to it, because sometimes you see people talking about their story and it doesn't really have a name. It's just kind of listing up the things that brought them here. But the perspective that you introduce I really like that. So I started in school doing media and communication and multimedia, and that's where I have my education, meaning I know how to edit images. I've made radio programs. I've made digital music. I've made packaging for products. I've done newspapers, everything you can imagine within media and communication and multimedia. So it's a very broad thing. And that kind of draws in the creativity bit for me as well. Really a good way to see what I'm good at and what I enjoy doing, as a way to kind of find my path within the creative space. And I found that web development really spoke to me. And I'm also very good at radio and packaging design. I really love doing both of those. So I have something to fall back on. If this AI thing takes my job away, I can always fall back on those two things. But yeah, and so from that, I went on to uni doing multimedia, more of it. And then I started freelancing as a web developer. And then I landed my first job, which was as a SharePoint consultant of all things, because being a web developer back then, you had all the Squarespaces and all the different kind of digital tools. It wasn't really something that I saw as a future job. And when I saw a job as a SharePoint consultant, I thought, well, why not just apply, give it a go? I have no idea what it is, because no one teaches you SharePoint in school, just as they don't teach you platform in school. And so that's my first job. And I did that for, I don't know, 7 years or something. I was a front-end SharePoint developer, making sure SharePoint didn't look like SharePoint, and also making people's intranets look and feel good and filled it with content. It was on the, yeah.
So would that have been when SharePoint would have been on premise?
Exactly. That was what I was about to say. That was when SharePoint was on-prem, and we actually took the master pages, the index, kind of the big thing, and turned it upside down. So it was very much web development. I was writing CSS, JavaScript, HTML, and it was very creative, making people's intranets look good and function well. But also it was intranets, so no one could really see my work. And then I went on maternity leave, and when I came back, Microsoft had pushed SharePoint to the cloud. All the customers were ringing me up and saying, can you please remove the master page, because now all the new juicy things aren't coming through because of your customizations. Can you remove it, please? And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that for the rest of my career. No. So we made a script that removed everything. And I thought, I'll have to look for something else. And Microsoft bought ADX Studio back in those days as well. And I just went for it. I just saw, okay, so another web tool for me to use that is business applications kind of driven and has that as an audience. That's perfect. And I could stay in the current company I worked in, which I really loved working at with my colleagues, but on a different product doing kind of the same thing. And that is what evolved into being Power Pages.
Okay. So in just in terms of sort of level setting, in terms of terminology and so on, earlier on, you talked about CSS and HTML, and those will not necessarily be things that our audience will understand. I've got a bit of an idea of it, and I know what they stand for. Certainly, HTML isn't so bad. Would you be okay to kind of just touch on CSS and HTML?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for calling that out, Rory, because as we talked about before we hit record, some of these acronyms and things we don't know. We'd have no concept. It's just in our daily language. So thank you for reminding me. So HTML would be the language you write to get elements to show up on a web page. So if I want to write a paragraph, I would use a tag, a syntax, which delivers that paragraph and the content within the paragraph on the page. CSS would be how that paragraph is styled. So I can apply colors, fonts, borders, gaps, sizes, things like that to the screen. So if you have a web page and you remove CSS, all you're going to see is black and white text, nothing else. And it's just going to render very blank down the page. You add CSS to it, kind of mirrors out, and it's whatever you see. And then also on top of that, you can put JavaScript or jQuery, something like that makes it more interactive, makes things move, makes it very dynamic, connects to data, that kind of thing. So that's web development 101.
And in terms of, from the point of view of, let's say, Power Platform, it has particular relevance to Power Pages, but I just want to call out to our audience to say, well, actually, are you going to see HTML and CSS in Power BI? No, you're not going to see it there. Are you going to see it in Power Apps? Generally, no. But actually, you do have a control called a HTML control, which ironically does HTML. So yes and no. But in principle, if you're thinking about where objects were on a screen and all that sort of thing, that is not controlled using HTML and CSS and so on. It is controlled using the designer, and then, once it gets out, and gets rendered on the web, then it's done using Power Platform. You don't have to worry about HTML and so on. So CSS is custom style sheets. That's what it means. And HTML is
cascading style sheets.
Yeah. And HTML is hyper something
markup language.
Yeah,
something
exactly. It's used just called HTML now.
Hyper template markup language, something along those lines, I think.
Exactly.
But don't quote me on that, because
exactly.
And I'm embarrassed not to know it. But so that is my core skill, right? So that's something that I've been that has been my core tool set for as long as I can remember. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I kind of saying, and everything that I do evolves around that as a core. Now I'm told that doesn't make me a proper developer, and I'm okay with that. But so the point is, if you talk about, so let's talk about front and back end just for a quick second to let people, because I'm sure some of the audience here have heard the terms back end, front end, but have no idea what the difference is. I'm very much a front end developer. The thing that you interact with when you go onto a website, the buttons, the interactivity, the styling, the mock-up, where elements are on the screen. That's the front end, the thing you interact with. The back end, however, that would be data and how you connect to data, servers, security, authentication, search, all of those mechanisms on the back, the service that this is hosted on, your DNS, the domain name that you go to, all of those things, that's backend. And my problem has always been, I don't know anything about backends. So if I couldn't create a React app if my life depended on it, but and this is also a term that probably people have come across, is from hello world until whatever you want, I can do. Hello world is often when the backend people are ready and done with their work, you have a plain site that just says hello world, because that is now rendering something on the page.
Yeah.
And from that point forwards, I can do whatever your mind can envision, but I don't know how to do all the backend stuff. And so Power Pages is absolutely perfect for me, because I click a button, Microsoft creates the security, the authentication, the ALM, the application lifecycle management, all of the back-end stuff that I don't have to worry about. And it's top tier, anything you can ever ask for. And I don't have to worry about it. But then, what do you want on the screen? How do you want it to feel? What do you want people to do? What do guide the user into great interaction with the thing? That's where I have my tool set and my skill set. And so, and I think, well, if I'm not a proper developer, it doesn't really matter. But I feel like a developer, in my mind, a developer is something that understands a need and is able to use their tools to solve it, in a sense. And that's Microsoft's wider term as well. Anyone is a developer, empower everyone. And I really subscribe to that, because I'm very much the target audience for Power Platform in that sense. And also Power Pages renders you use a Studio, you create Power Pages site that renders as HTML on a website. Canvas apps, interestingly enough, is also a web app. So when Canvas apps are rendered, you play a Canvas app, it is very much a web app. It also renders as HTML, CSS, JavaScript on the page. And so, and that goes for everything on the web. So it is the web's language, in a sense. And all the other kind of constructs around it is designed to produce HTML you put on a website. That was a very long answer, and way longer than you intended. But I hope that maybe that was kind of giving someone value that doesn't come from this part of the kind of the tech space, to understand a little bit, what's going on.
Yeah, and I think that most people coming into Power Platform will probably not be looking at Power Pages. And so I think that it would be interesting for you to kind of, I can describe Power Pages, but could you describe Power Pages to somebody who didn't really know a lot about Power Pages?
Yeah, 100%. So just to kind of back up a little bit, so you have Power Platform, you have Dataverse as the place where you store your tables, your data, right? Your data structure. So you have different tables in Dataverse, having a contact table, different columns to say our first name, last name, emails, that kind of thing. And on top of that, we put Power Pages. When I click a button and I have a blank Power Pages site, out of the box, I can allow people to log into that site securely without me doing anything. I can control whether it's available outside of authentication. So you could just simply grab the URL. I can share it with you. You could access the site. And whatever I put on the site, you can access. And I can choose to put everything behind authentication. I can set up Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is as authentication provider. So I can use your Microsoft account, or I can create my own. So it's a way to create websites based on Dataverse data. And now we can also relate to other, we can only use Dataverse as a source, but you can now have virtual tables, for instance, from Salesforce or for F&O and stuff like that. So you can have alternative data sources. But it is essentially, if you have the need to communicate with someone or allow someone to manage data in Dataverse that isn't an internal user, Power Pages is the tool for you. So that's what it's designed to do.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. And I know you're good friends with Franco Musso,
Mm.
and he helped me out quite a bit in terms of getting myself to a point where I actually understood Power Pages. And he talked about hero processes. So if you are an insurance company, for example, people making claims and providing information about those claims and the back and forth of can you provide me with this and so on, that is a very good use case for Power Pages, because you have your
Mm.
hero process. We process claims, and then the data can reside in Dataverse. The author, they don't have to be a user of, you don't have to have them on your tenant. They can just be a normal person with, I don't know, a Facebook account, and they can just authenticate effectively with Facebook, and then they are interacting with Dataverse data, which is
Yeah.
quite cool. Because, and I don't want to get into too much into licensing, but there are scenarios where the licensing impact and just the pure productivity impact is very significant. It's like, would you really want to have a license for all these people that you don't even know are going to make a claim? It irons a lot of those things out.
Yeah, 100%. And you can see it in the templates that come out of the box when Microsoft's provided for us already. You have the partner portal, for instance. You can think about supply chain, you can think about product management or procurement, having a customer, a
Yeah,
partnership, a supplier, a vendor, something like that, where they can actually then access their own information. In Europe, we have GDPR, which
yeah.
means that we have to show people what kind of information we store on them. It could be an easy way to get that happening. We are now currently doing a project with the Norwegian Red Cross in terms of giving volunteers the ability to view their own data, sign up for courses, sign up for activities they want to
Hmm.
volunteer for, customer service. So you have Dynamics 365 customer service business applications app comes with the Power Pages portal already with case management, contact information management. You can have, there's so many things. Marketing comes with event portal that allows you to create events, have multiple sessions, multiple tracks, multiple speakers, hotel, you name it. After school programs, kind of the same thing with events. I know Microsoft's own advocacy team has made a real estate site using Power Pages to show off the capabilities.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you can do with it. That as long as, like I said in the beginning, as long as you have that use case of interacting with database data as a foundation, and
Yeah.
you have an end user that is outside of your tenant naturally, that is where the sweet spot in the use case of Power Pages is.
And like, we're not going to be able to get to the bottom of this question in this session, but say, for example, you're somebody that knows about Dataverse. How do you get into Power Pages? How do you go from knowing about Dataverse and maybe knowing about how to make model-driven apps and data models? How do you go from there? Because a lot of people on the Microsoft Power Up program have got a sense of how to use Dataverse and so on. They know model-driven apps, and they know how to create views and all those things. What would be a reasonable pathway for them to go from not knowing much about Power Pages to knowing a little bit more about Power Pages?
Mm. This depends on how you learn, right? So I have a workshop coming up. You can join a workshop if you need to kind of, someone aid you along or watch a video, do blog post, whatever. But I would suggest create a developer environment. Don't use the default environment
Yeah.
in Power Platform for Power Pages. Use a developer environment. It's free. You can only have one user. It expires after 90 days or 30 days of changing it. And you create a Power Pages site. And from Power Pages Design Studio, you have a data button on the left menu. And
Yeah.
when you click that, you get access to all the tables that are already in Dataverse to give you a sense of what you can do.
Yeah.
And the designer will guide you. There's a guidance on the right side. You have a co-pilot in there. You can ask questions and simply just play around with adding lists and forms on the
Okay.
different pages. So it's easy. You go into pages, you can create a new page, and you'll have an interactive space in the designer that allows you to add sections and create a layout. And then you can add For instance, you add a list to a page, that's going to go grab a list that already exists in Dataverse. You have a list of events, for instance, that I've signed up for. I can easily display that same view that you have in Dataverse on the Power Pages site just by clicking 2 buttons and setting it up. Same with forms. For instance, you have an event registration form, you create that in Dataverse. You could easily go in and grab the same form, put that form on the Power Pages site. So it's a one-to-one between the things you create in Dataverse. The columns you put on a view or on a form are the same ones that you get into Power Pages. And you edit that in Dataverse, that's automatically going to be edited in your Power Pages view as well. So yeah, that's a great question, Rory. Smart. Thank you.
Yeah. And then in terms of the immediate reaction of a lot of people is to say that it works, but it doesn't look as nice as they would like it to look. And that's the bit where your design skills and then the technical skills around this CSS, that's what makes it look great.
Yeah. So people can say the same things about Canvas apps, right? You create a Canvas app and you just draw you just draw things onto the screen and you just muck around with it, and then it looks like a Canvas app. And sure enough, yes, you can do the things you wanted to do with it, but it doesn't give you a very good user interface necessarily. It's not pleasing to use, but it wasn't designed to be pleasing to use. It was designed to be a starting point for you, that if you're capable and you can do something else and something more with it. And we see all the time, examples of what people can do with a Canvas app. Oh, it just blows my mind. Oh, it's so awesome. Now, the same applies to Power Pages. So what I do usually because I also travel the world and speak about Power Pages, and do training, it's usually around how to style Power Pages, how to get it to look and feel like so again, same as I did for SharePoint, how to make it not feel like a Power Pages site. So this is a bit technical again. Power Pages is based off of Bootstrap as a design framework. So just to kind of unpack that a little bit, instead of you having to invent what a button looks like from scratch every time, Microsoft made the decision to say, this is a very well-established visual framework that has a set of predefined buttons for you. So you put a button on a page, it's going to have rounded corners. When you hover over it, it's going to grow a little bit in size. When you click it, it's going to reduce a little bit in size. And when you've clicked it, it has a different color than an unclicked button, for instance. You can use that out of the box if you want to. But if your customer or your company has a requirement that all buttons needs to have square corners and a really specified set of colors, for instance, you can make those changes on top of what comes out of the box. But the forms, they are okay. You don't care about them. You'll just leave them as is. Whereas if we didn't have that kind of framework, everyone would just start with a blank page and it would take so much longer to get somewhere. So out of the box, not the most sexy of websites maybe, but functional. We have actually 2 customers where we've created expense apps using out of the box components just that. Because it's for internal users, and it's just, you create an expense, you add your receipts, you add your attachments, your images, right? Your receipts. And then you send it off. So they don't need it to be splashy and fantastic. Just to have that piece of functionality on a mobile app on your phone is amazing for their employees. So just using out of the box.
And the reason why that works from a licensing point of view is that you're talking about an organization. Let's say for fun, you had an organization with 1,000 employees, but actually only 50 of them use Power Apps. So why would you license 1,000 people when only 50 people genuinely use Power Apps, week in, week out? And you actually don't know if somebody's going to do an expense claim every month. And so the licensing structure is around consumption rather than just, availability like with other products.
Yeah, and you're right. And not, like you said, please don't let us dive into licensing. But so there's two things I want to highlight in what you just said. With a Power Apps premium license, you can use or you can interact with a Power Pages site within that license. So yes, if you had 300 employees and 300 premium licenses, you wouldn't have to pay extra for Power Pages for your internal users. External users is different. Also, you have the Power Apps, and it's forgotten about because Microsoft don't want us to talk about this anymore, but you still have the possibility of buying a Power Apps per app license.
Oh, yeah.
It's cheaper, but you only get access to one app. And a little known fact, an app and a site. So you can have Power Apps per app license and access one model-driven app, one Canvas app, and one Power Pages site. So that's another thing. But yeah, just like you said, we saw a post on LinkedIn just a few weeks ago. Someone argued, and I think actually that was also Franco was part of that, where they argued
that was probably
Power
Sean.
Pages,
That was Franco and Sean, I think.
Sean and Franco argued actually for internal use, Power Pages is cheaper than model-driven apps. You have a very specific use case and you create that in a model-driven app instead of giving all your users premium access. That is way cheaper. So I'm not going to get on that soapbox, but I mean, there are, and also this is what we find with our customers. Once they start using Power Pages and they see what it can do and they understand how the licensing work, it's just,
Okay. So now we're going to move into the kind of more structured part of the interview, and that's where I came up with these series of questions. So I don't know. Do you know this poem? Do you know the poem "Something Old, Something New, Something Borrowed, Something Blue"? Is that something you've heard of? Oh no, I didn't know. Was that? I'd have thought maybe it was a UK thing or something. Anyway, that's where these questions came from. I thought, oh. Yeah, something old, something new. Oh, yeah, something borrowed and something. So the idea is something old is something that has existed kind of forever in Power Platform that you think, hey, this is cool. Something new is something that is newish. I went for something that was actually quite old when I did it, but anyway, something old, something new, something borrowed. So some content that somebody else has created that you think is quite cool, and then something blue is something that kind of makes you go a bit nuts because you think that drives me mad. It's actually my favorite question in the whole interview, actually.
Yeah, and if any of the listeners have listened to the Boost podcast, they know what I'm going to talk about for the blue thing because
I ought to know. So, and then before just in case I forget, I do want to make sure that you get the opportunity to talk about something that you've done in Power Platform that you're kind of most proud of. That could be anything. So
that's interesting. We'll see.
So here we go. Something old within Power Platform that you think is cool.
Yes. I need to go with Power Pages Management app. It's the model-driven app that is the kind of where you configure Power Pages. The one that we got when that's been around since Microsoft bought the product back in 8 years ago.
Okay.
And it's a bit frowned upon now that there's a new shiny designer. A bit of history lesson. Model-driven app, the management app, came around. It was clunky. It's a model-driven app. It's not sexy. People didn't understand it. It was a learning curve for sure. But once you understood it, it's very efficient and it's fast. It works well. Has a beep ton of functionality. Then someone in Microsoft thought, this is not good enough. We need to rebrand. And it was good for Power Pages in terms of marketing. So they created a new designer. They called it Power Apps Portals. And it was part of the Power Platform. Brilliant. Problem was that designer was, I don't know if I can say it, but shit. Utter shit. And then what they did was, and then, you will have to beep me out. And then they threatened to take away the old one. We were like, no, you cannot take away the old one because we don't have the functionality in the new designer yet. Fast forward another couple of years, they rebranded it, the product to Power Pages, new name, another designer on top of the one we already have that was already shit. They did not really have a lot of new functionality either. To this day, Power Pages has about 50% of its functionality buried in the model-driven app called the Power Pages Management app. The other 50% you can do from the designer. They are adding new things. They're adding new things that Power Pages
Yeah.
couldn't do in the past, and they're adding in functionality from the model-driven app every month. So it's not like it's stagnating, but as a Power Pages developer, I cannot work without the
Yeah.
model-driven app. And if they ever threaten to throw it out again, I know that the whole community is going to outroar because the designer is simply not good enough. For instance, you have multilingual capabilities with Power Pages, where
Okay.
you can have different languages, and the capability is so good. It used to be the top 2 selling points for Power Pages as
Oh,
a
right.
product. And it's nowhere to be found in the designer
Yeah.
experience. If you are new to Power Pages, you use the designer, you would not have a faintest idea that it had multilingual capabilities at all. It's completely non-existent, and it is huge. And so that would be my old.
Yeah. And I remember when Franco was showing me it, he showed me how to make multi-step forms using do we call it the management app? Is that
Yep.
what we call the Power Pages management app? So he showed me how to use multi-step forms. So essentially, you fill in, 3 of the fields and then 5 of the fields and 4 of the fields, something like that. But that was quite clever how that was done. Okay, so we will jump straight on to something new in that case.
Oh, I have 3 new things.
You can do your top. Okay, you can do 3, 2, 1, and then you say, and this is my number 1. Okay.
Right, so first of all, actually, I'm one of the rare people out there that love the new Power Automate designer. I know it's been
Okay.
it has a rough time in the community. I find that people love to hate it, but I absolutely love it. I think there's so many neat things that we can do in the new designer that we can't do with the old one. Yes, it's buggy and clunky, and doesn't work all the time, but it's getting better. And so this is what I do. I go for the new thing always. I force myself to use it even though it's not finished. And then I love the new Power Platform Admin Center. You click the new experience up in the top corner.
Yeah.
And the amount of insights and analytics and the monitoring that you get with that, it's absolutely blown my mind. I love now just going through it, just do. But and also I have a secret kind of infatuation with agents. I know I love to hate AI and Copilot and agent, and I think
I'm
the
imagining
whole thing
Daniel
is
Craig
winding me
here
up.
now. I'll add a picture of him.
Yeah, you have to switch that past the screen. Yeah, now you got me on to 007 now. Oh, where's this gonna go? But yeah, so no, I do love the concept of agents and having a set of agents that work with you, but I also see the downside of it. So it's one of those, yes, I do really love the idea, and I really subscribe to the idea of agent as a new thing. Yeah. So that's my 3 things. 3 new
Good.
things.
You are welcome to have 3. What was your top one, though?
Thank you.
What was your top one?
There was a Power Automate designer.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I was using that today, and then I thought, I think I go back to the old one.
Oh, really? That surprises
But
me.
here's one thing. Here's one thing, right? And it was a specific one that is a difference. Now that we've gone way over time, we might as well go even further over time.
I had to cancel a meeting now, Rory, because we're going.
Yeah. So, one of the things I like to do, I will carry on with Power Platform. One of the things I like to do is if I have a table, and I'm not really quite sure what it's going to come out with, then I'll use that kind of create HTML table, and you just throw in the array, and then you can see the table. Now, when you do that in the classic designer, you actually see a table. When you do the same thing in the new designer, you literally see the HTML. So just kind of just see tags and all sorts.
Oh, no, really?
And so, yeah, exactly. So it was the one
Wow.
time. And so ironically, the reason why I moved kind of back and forth was for that very reason, was because it's, and I kept, weirdly enough, the reason I went to the new designer is because I knew it did that and I wanted it. So yeah.
Wow.
Interesting. I do need to get better at it, though.
Very interesting. But does it
Okay.
now ask you, if you flip back to the old one, does it now ask you, because you have, so for those who are new to this platform, they might not know that everything you see today, Zimba, all the things that the sun shine upon, it has a classic interface somewhere that you haven't seen.
Okay,
Lucky
yeah.
you. So we can flip back and forth between classic,
Yeah.
which is the old legacy one, and
Yeah.
the new shiny one for almost anything. So if you do that from a model-driven app perspective, it asks you,
Yeah.
why would you want to go into the legacy one or
Yeah,
the
yeah,
classic one? And you have to put it in there.
yeah,
Does
yeah.
does the Power Automate designer flipping back and forth do the same thing? Does it ask you, what is it you need to go into the old designer for?
It does, but interestingly enough, part of the reason why I think a lot of people probably still use the classic designer is because if you're in Power Apps, as in make.powerapps.com, and then you go onto one of your automations and then you click edit, then it takes you to the classic designer in the context of Power Apps. If you do edit in new page, it takes you into make.powerautomate.com,
Automate.
and then it does the new designer. So it's quite interesting that it's not habit forming, because it then kind of like, if you spend a lot of your life in make.powerapps.com, then you're going to end up just opening the old designer.
Yeah, and let me just put a little of a pin in that for the new people in. So, because I work on a team now where we onboard juniors, and then they discover, so they go in and they're tasked to do Power Automate stuff, and then Power App stuff, and then suddenly they discover, oh, I can edit Power Automate flows from here, and so they start doing that, and
Yeah.
then someone comes into Power Pages and they say, I can edit tables from here, perfect, and you have this huge little crossover where you can do stuff for another product within, and I think Microsoft's idea is that it's accessible. Hence good. In my view, on the other hand, it's not good. I would advise anyone who starts working with Power Platform, be consistent and edit or develop the thing you are developing in its set environment. Meaning, if you are working on a Power Automate flow, use make.powerautomate.com. Don't use the Power Apps designer for that, or sorry, the make.powerapps.com. Same with Power Pages. Yes, you can access, as I just talked about, the data page from Power Pages shows you tables in Dataverse, but please do not use it from there. It has implications I'm not going to go into. Use Power Apps interface for managing Dataverse tables and rows and columns and etc. The designers, from a code-based perspective, are not the same. So use the tool that you're going to use in the environment that they're at.
Good. So something borrowed and something blue then.
Let me just try to be quick. So borrowed, I'm going to go with, so I had a chat with Nikita. He was working at the PowerCat team for Power Pages, and he showed me last week they have a new set of assessment tooling kind of process that they're going through to assess Power Pages sites. And I absolutely love his work. I mean, it's so good. I've already kind of started to kind of onboard it and transfer it into my own. I'm going to embed some of it in my workshop at Color Cloud in the end of April. We're using it internally here. I absolutely love that kind of the grunt work that he's done is fabulous. And so I'm going to have to go with that because it's absolutely brilliant.
Okay, can we get a link for that we can put into the show notes?
Yes, he actually, there's been, the partner call that is every week.
Okay.
There's a weekly series on Power Platform Partner Call
that
anyone can go to. The last 3 weeks has been about Power Pages and security.
Okay.
So Nikita's already has, so you can go, we can put links to those recordings and that partner call and also these resources. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. He's done such a good job.
And are they available on YouTube in that case? Or how does that work?
I'm not really sure where the recordings end up because they usually
As
join
in, how
the
would
calls
someone in the
themselves,
public be able to see it?
I'll look into that so we can put links to it so that people can access it.
Lovely. So something blues. This is something that gets you. Have you got enough energy to be nuts about something?
I will rant no matter how tired and fatigued I am.
Oh, I haven't worn you out.
Oh no, not at all. No. So what I'm gonna these days I get blue up because of AI. because I weep for the artists that used to make a living off of being creative and putting themselves out there. Usually they didn't earn a big wage anyways, because it was an underrated profession. But I mean, with the advent of music being created by AI, but people can't really hear the difference between something produced by humans and something produced by AI. You have pictures and illustrations and photos and editing, and everything is AI these days. I'm not saying that I'm opposed it, that I don't understand why we have to go that direction, and I'm trying to stay away from it as much as I can, but I've recognized that it's inevitable, so I'm not going to work against it. But it makes me sad nonetheless. So that brings me down that whole, because I'm a creative person myself. And I had a rant with Nick about this the other day. I used to have a stick shift car. You drove car, stick shift, right? And I used to love driving. Driving for me was a pleasurable activity. You just put it in gear, you clutch, you put it in gear, it made a noise. It was fun, interactive. It was an activity that I was immersed in. I loved doing it. I could go for drives just to do that because I love driving, and I'd like to drive fast, and I like it to make noise. Now I have a huge electric car, automatic, of course. Driving is now reduced to A to B. It's not an activity I don't mind driving, but it's not fun. It's not something I do. If I wanted to have the same experience, if I wanted to maintain the fun and thrill that I get from the act of driving stick shift, I would have to have an old car and I have to maintain it and all that. And I'm not into that. I'm not into cars per se, into driving. So it's removed. I'm one enjoyable activity poor. And I think AI is doing the same thing. If you love to make music or you love to code, I love to code. I love to code. But I know that I'm not going to be as good as AI. My code is going to be less optimal. It's going to perform worse. Then I couldn't really code for work because I'm not good enough. AI is better than me. So if I want to code, it would have to be a hobby project. So if I want to still continue coding, I will then have to have a pet project where I code, where I know that it's not as fun and it's not as good, and it's just So I'm seeing that AI is taking away enjoyable things from my life that I'm no longer gonna do.
We're gonna fight that though. We're gonna fight.
It's a losing battle, and I recognize it. And like I said, I understand that that's the direction that they're going in, and there's no stopping it, but it doesn't. And I've learned as an adult, I can be sad about something and still accept that it's happening and I can't do anything about it, but I'm allowed to be sad about it still.
Well, can I make you happy about something then? Okay. So on a Sunday morning, probably for the last 5 or 6, 7 weeks maybe, on a Sunday morning, I'll get in the car, get my stuff, and I'll go into town, and I'll get my gear out, and I start busking. I just go into the middle of the town, I'll get my gear out, and got the microphone out, and there's people sat in the cafes, people walking past, there's kids going, and for me, it's remarkable. It's like I look at that and I think, AI will never even touch this. It will never touch this ever. Because if it did, then, I don't know, we'd just have USBs in the back of our heads at that point. So, like, I am quite happy to invest time in this particular skill because nothing can replace it, like, in my mind.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. I have a daughter, she's a Therian, so she creates these animal masks. And that is very much hot glue, fur, pencil, drawing, paint, And we paint masks and we create that, and it's with our hands, and we play music in the background, we sing and we talk and we chat and we drink tea. And AI is never going to take that away either, right? So it's about doing the thing for you that you enjoy doing either way. So yeah.
And to some extent, this podcast is about some of that. It's about, I could just as easily be kind of doom scrolling for another hour on LinkedIn or whatever, but actually us being able to have this chat it's a real experience.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
But
and it's,
you know,
but actually, Rory, it's a real experience for you and me. But have you seen what they can do with Google Notes notebook thing, where so there was a girl, we talked about it on the podcast as well, but there was a girl who just prompted ChatGPT for text about Power Platform, something,
yeah,
that into Google. And Google then created a conversation between two people, and it's an R's, and they joke
yeah,
and they make fun of
yeah.
each other, and they have a conversation equally good to what we'll have, probably better, because they don't go off on tangents, and they keep to the timing that she can
It's
say,
gone.
oh, bring it down to 30 minutes. So actually for us it is, but for the audience, I'm not sure. I don't know if there's value in the fact that you and me know each other and that we have this connection and we sit here and talk and we enjoy sitting here chatting and we share our experiences. But for the audience, is there really a big difference, do you think?
Well, no, they'll have to tell us, won't they? Well, I know the
Yeah, I
audience. It's just my mum, so I can just ask her.
think so cute. No, this is going to blow up. Don't you worry. It's going to blow up. It's going to be the talk of the town for sure.
Okay, so we've done the something blue, which is AI, and that brings us into, so we've had our chat, and so the way we move out of the podcast is through the desert island disc. And
And I have a bit of a cold, so I'm nervous.
okay, so the deal with this, the people can do it whatever they, guests can do it whatever they want. The point about this is to have a song that you like, that you can talk about and say, why would you take it with you on a desert island? You don't have to be able to sing it or anything like that, although we might be doing that. But
You say that, but then you put it up as something that I had to sing something.
no, you didn't have to. But you came up with a song which was ironically entirely instrumental, which is quite amusing.
Is it throwing you off?
Yeah. So, but do you want to tell people about that particular song and why you chose it?
Absolutely, I will. So I chose the song, and when you asked, there was really not a second's hesitation. This has
Yeah.
always been the song that's been with me, and it's "Children" by Robert Miles, the original one. It is 7.02 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
fit for radio. It's purely instrumental. It's EDM, electronic dance music,
Yeah.
style music. But it is. I remember where I was. I was sitting on the floor in my bedroom when I was a kid,
Yeah.
when I heard it the first time. And it just, and I'm like that, right? I'm creative, and I'm also very much, music does something to but it's a physical experience for me to listen to music. I know not everyone's like that, but that's what it's like for me. So I remember how it felt in my body and how it kind of vibrated and resonated through me physically. And I just could not get enough of it. And I know, so I'm 36, 37 now.
Yeah.
And that I was probably, 11, maybe. No, even not that, even younger. And it has, I'm not growing tired of it. I can always play it, and it's the sense of home.
Yeah.
It brings me back, just like a smell can bring you back. It
Yeah.
does. And I also remember sitting on a bus in Iceland, going from the airport into the city, when I learned that Robin Miles had passed away.
Oh, wow.
And so the song has followed me from my childhood into my adolescence and my youth, and now in adulthood. And it is a song that I know for a fact I will never forget, and I will always be able to return to for comfort. And I absolutely love it.
Ah, fantastic. But you didn't have to do this, by the way. But you did then choose a song that, let's reminisce, okay? Scottish Summit last year, they did, like, in the evening, I think that would have been on the Friday, maybe? I think it was on the Friday. They did a drag queen evening. And so I'm not even going to talk about what Will Dorrington and Chris Huntingford ended up looking like. That is a scar that I don't want to inflict on anyone else. But you came on, and so is there a guy version of a drag queen? I guess there must be. What does that mean? You're a drag king or something? King.
Yeah, drag king.
Drag king.
That's
There
exactly
you are.
it.
So you came on as a drag king, and you, I don't know. You describe it yourself.
No, so it was a drag queen show where they had two. So Anna and me were the only girls there.
Yeah.
We were drag kings, and we had to kind of choose a persona. And for whatever reason, I chose the Joker because I think the movie came out. Quentin, there's so many things. For some reason, that's what I ended up doing. And also, you wanted to make a routine, and then you had to choose a song. And Mark was adamant that we had to choose something that he could use without paying royalty. There were so many things about it. But so I chose the song Smile as my routine. But then also I found that for him to not pay royalty, I chose the karaoke version. And I thought, why don't I just sing it? Instead, because all the other girls would just dance around and be all. But I thought, I'm going to do Joker. I have to do something. I just walk around. So I thought, I'll sing then. I'll sing Smile to everyone.
So how's this going to work, technically speaking? Because I've got my guitar here, right? And I can hear you, and my microphone cannot hear you. So I don't know how that's going to work.
Let's just try it, because probably it's going to be a misalignment. But if we just go with it, then you can put it together afterwards. Let's try it to see.
Let's try it then.
And now of course I don't remember the lyrics, so I'm just going to have to Google.
Yeah, I'll let you Google it.
Right. Okay. So we're going to do this.
Don't worry. I'm going to tune my guitar and I'll chop this bit out. One thing I noticed with doing all of the because this would be rubbish. Its temperature affects the guitar massively.
Oh, massively. You want to keep it as consistent as possible. So is that the guitar that you bring outside then for talking?
Yeah, it's wicked. It's massive as well.
That's why it's
Yeah, the whole thing resonates massively, as in like when it's in tune. So here we go. So you've got the should we just do it together then?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Okay, yeah, that'll work. And I don't know some of these chords. We'll just go with it. Check that. I only actually learned it last night. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
So you go straight on then.
Smile, though your heart is aching.
Your heart is aching. Smile.
Smile, even though it's breaking.
Even though it's breaking.
When there
are clouds.
Should we try it again?
In the sky. Yep. If you just sing it, and I'll just follow you. Because
do you know what?
Easier.
Should we just sing it without the guitar?
Yeah, we can. Let's just do that. That's essentially what I did. Yeah, so, okay. But just set the tone and then.
If you smile through your fear and sorrow,
smile,
and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through. For you just smile.
So much fun. Let's see how that plays out. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope that the audience enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed it.
Me too,
I'll
Rory.
just leave it at that.
Yeah, but if not, then I had a swell time just chatting with you. So it's all good. Yeah, thank you so much for bringing me on as your first guest. Really, really means a lot to me. And best of luck with all the rest of your episodes and the other guests that you bring on.
Thank you. And everyone, please subscribe, add comments, use whichever your favourite platform is. And I'll see you again in a future episode. Time to stop.